Welcome back to the Best in Horror 2020-2021. I'm ML Miller. Today's horror pairing couldn't be more different from one another, but while one chooses to go over the top and the other is much more subtle, both are examples of modern giallo, or gialli, if you prefer, where someone is witness to a heinous act, the police are ineffective or absent, and the killer eventually sets their sights on the witness protagonist. This is ML Miller Frights' Best in Horror Countdown 2020-2021. Number 25. Number 25 is Malignant, released September 10th, 2021. It's available streaming on HBO Max. Malignant is directed by James Wan and written by James Wan, Ingrid Bisu, and Akela Cooper. Madison, played by Annabelle Wallace, has lived a rough life. She's married to an abusive husband, pregnant, and remembers nothing before the age of 8 years old when she was adopted. Madison begins having visions after she's struck by her husband, loses the baby, and wakes up next to his dead body. Soon, Madison begins seeing visions of a dark figure who emerges from the shadows and begins an intricate and gory killing spree. With a pair of bumbling detectives on the case, and Madison's sister, Sydney, we summon the darknesses, Maddie Hassan, attempting to care for her, the killer's spree gets closer and closer to Madison's home. But once the dark secrets from Madison's past come to light, nothing will ever be the same again. That's about as vague as I can get regarding Malignant, a film built on giant revelations, violent murders, and dark secrets. I guess if we're going to begin looking at this film, it's important to understand what kind of filmmaker James Wan is. Wan loves the spectacle of movie making. He loves the big reveals, highlighting them with over-the-top musical cues, extreme camera movements, and bizarre imagery. Subtle, Wan is not, and if you look at everything he's done from Dead Silence up until Malignant, you're not going to experience much subtlety at all. Look at the ridiculous police procedural antics by Marky Mark's brother in Dead Silence. How about the unconventional layering of story revelations in Saw? Or Lin Shaye's hammy turn in Insidious? Or the screeching guitar intros every time Aquaman makes a big entrance? Wan is all about showmanship, The Conjuring, for the most part, being Wan at his most sedate and measured. Right off the bat, Malignant turned me off more and more with each extremely obnoxious musical choice or soap opera melodramatic occurrence as each card of the deck is revealed. Wan has one shot that he uses over and over again where the cops enter a crime scene and we focus on their shocked faces before it's revealed what atrocities have been committed. Every time this occurs, I found myself saying, "Oh my God," over dramatically as every emotion is cranked to 11. When Madison finds out she lost her baby, not really a spoiler, this happens in the first few moments, she screams over and over and over. You would think Wan was going to cut away, but she doesn't, and Madison just screams again. It's comically bad, yet somehow I stuck with Malignant, and I'm glad I did. With music cackling obtusely like a drunk ant at a Christmas dinner, characters acting so clueless that it's a wonder they can get dressed in the morning, the endless discovery of new videotapes and flash drives containing key information necessary to get to the next chapter, and a plot that gets more bizarre and unkempt as it goes along, one would think I hated Malignant. But the longer I sat with Malignant, like a tumor itself, the movie grew on me. As each revelation is dropped, one more ludicrous than the next, I couldn't help but find myself having a blast. By the time the final revelation drops, I finally realized what kind of batshit crazy Malignant was, and it won me over. Now, I get it if you're not one of those people. The soap operatics of the first hour or so is definitely like sandpaper to the scrotum. The acting is really bad. I loved Maddie Hassan in We Summon the Darkness, but this isn't going to be the film that propels her to stardom. And don't get me started with the Wanda Sykes wannabe cop who is only there to be stubborn and give sassy replies when the evidence is right there in front of her face. The story doesn't help much with broad lines like, "It's time to cut the cancer out," and "I used to call him the devil." Blah. loud music blast, but all of that isn't much different than the crazy dramatics used in some of the most classic of Universal monster flicks of old. Look at the screaming woman in The Invisible Man. Look at Victor Frankenstein's orgasmic reaction to his monster's hand twitching. Look at Mrs. Voorhees' monologue, or Norman Bates' final reveal as Mother. All of them go, "This is Spinal Tap" with the cinematic volume, yet are still seen as classics. Wan seems to be the kind of filmmaker who loves that shit and throws it in his movies as much as he can, culminating to a Matrix-style fight scene, curb stomping an entire police station in an over-the-top blood, spatter, and action fest. By the time the final reveal drops, viewers have witnessed a film that births slowly and meticulously, yet eventually blossoms into a beautiful symphony of comic booky and ultra-gory proportions. If you're looking for films that take themselves too seriously, I'll direct you to quite a few of them that are effectively dramatic in tone, as well as containing powerful horror elements. Simply on the surface, *Malignant* opens almost beat for beat as other films which take themselves very seriously do, like *Demonic*, *The Night House*, and *The Girl Who Got Away* specifically. While each of these films are decent on their own, that simply isn't what *Malignant* turns out to be by the last act. It begins the same way, but ends in a completely other universe. As painfully bad as that first hour is, Wan continues to culminate the insanity with every second that goes by, and soon the tone and subject matter catches up with the levels of over-the-top melodramatics. *Malignant* feels like the culmination of all of Wan's horror work to date. There are all kinds of Saw-like revelations that are supposed to make your head look like a continuous mushroom cloud. There are nods to Frankenstein, Psycho, Basket Case, De Palma's Sisters, and Dress to Kill, and scores of other horror classics. The look of the killer is definitely one of the more unique and literally twisted visages I've experienced with a cinematic slasher. It's even got Zoe Bell with a wicked ugly mullet. *Malignant* is not to be taken seriously, and I think that's the best way to watch this film. If you take the drama at face value, you're in for a rough ride. But if you simply enjoy the hammy, schlocky, and downright trashy tone of it all, I guarantee you're going to have as great a time with it as I did. Today's bonus review is *Compulsion*, or *Compulsion*. Released October 27th, 2020, it's available streaming on Amazon Prime from Level 33 Entertainment. *Compulsion* is directed and written by Ángel González. Marina Esteve plays Esther, a mild-mannered woman who becomes suspicious that her boyfriend Robert, played by Paco Manzanedo, is cheating on her. One day she follows him after he leaves her apartment and sees him meet up with the young and beautiful Fanny, played by Susana Abeitua. After following them to a secluded location, Esther believes she'll catch them in the act, but in fact uncovers something much darker and disturbing. I hate to give away too much in regard to the twisted and maze-like structure of *Compulsion*. It's best to go in blind like I did. So don't watch the trailer, and maybe don't even listen to this review until after you've seen the film. All I'll say is that this is a brutal and complex dissection of the complexities of trusting someone. It's about whether or not you ever know someone. If you don't want to be spoiled by the twists, then just go with that and stop watching. Okay, I guess that's enough of a spoiler warning, but in their own way, both Esther and Fanny discover that Robert is not what he seems. The moments of revelation from both actresses are riveting and terrifying. All three characters shine in *Compulsion*, but it's when these revelations occur that show how effective these two actresses really are. For Esteve, it's her investigation that helps uncover the truth, which is much more of a gradual discovery. But Susana Abeitua's moment is probably one of the most effective in the film, as she suddenly realizes Robert isn't the charismatic hunk she believes, and that she is alone and helpless in his clutches. Confidence melts from her face, and it converts to sheer terror. It's all in her face, with very little dialogue, and it's a truly mesmerizing moment. *Compulsion* is not going to be for everyone. While there is a mystery element to the story, once Robert reveals his cards, things get absolutely brutal. The level of violence is not going to sit well with most. This isn't Hollywood violence, where a 90-pound woman can knock out a 250-pound brute with one punch. Robert is a monster with an arsenal of weapons at his disposal, and these two women have nothing but their wits to rely on. The film proves to be an arduous battle of cat and mice, and no one gets out unscathed. Compulsion is a wonderful surprise telling of a layered and unconventional story from two perspectives. It makes you feel for both women and highlights the dangers they find themselves in with an unflinching lens. This is a hardcore horror in the same vein as Coralie Farragut's Revenge from a few years ago. Yes, it's basically a rape revenge film, and I understand those are hard to digest, but the complexity of the plot and the level of acting involved escalates Compulsion above its grindhouse roots. If you've got the guts, check out this brutal Hitchcockian Spanish thriller. Come back tomorrow for the next installment to the Best in Horror Countdown 2021. If you hit all the pertinent bells and whistles down below, you're sure never to miss it. See you then.
You're doomed to live the life you're meant to be, stuck inside your reality. You're